Daenerys then comes back with a scroll and puts it down in front of William. Is this the next scroll that it comes up after the one that we just finished? Yes, William. But there's something I need to tell you. It's going to be a bit disturbing. Well, I'm sure it can't be that bad. What would it be that would be so disturbing about this scroll? It was never the House of Targaryen's intent for one to act so treacherous and do things that would be considered of a dark nature to bring us a bad name. The one that you have studied, lastly, before I got this scroll, the second son to Aegon I Targaryen, did things that brought shame to the House of Targaryen. And it wouldn't matter even if you tried, William. No offering will pay for the transgressions that he had done. I see. So this must be pretty disturbing, I take it? Yes. But if you have any questions, I'll be right here to ask you, of course. It hopefully won't be too disturbing. Well, I will keep an open mind. I mean, after all, even in my family, no family members of mine have ever been perfect. Even I'm not perfect. Well, that is good to hear, William. You speak honestly from the heart. So I hope that this won't be, well, since it is the first black mark in our house, it won't disturb you too much. Well, I am ready to follow through and read on this. And if I have questions, I will be sure to ask. But at the same time, I don't want to ask questions that you might not be comfortable with. So this being unspoken and mutually agreed. Maegar I Targaryen. Maegar I Targaryen, also known as Maegar the Cruel, was the third Targaryen king to sit the Iron Throne. He was the son of King Aegon I Targaryen and his elder sister wife, Queen Rheana Targaryen. He had an older half-brother, Aenys I Targaryen. The polygamous Maegar had 6 wives: Ceres Hightower, Alice Harroway, Tiana of the Tower, Eleanor Costaigne, Jane Westerling, and his niece, Rheana Targaryen, the last 3 of whom are known as the Black Brides. His appearance and character. Maegar was larger than his father, King Aegon. He was bull-like, with heavy shoulders, a thick neck, and huge arms. Though he was on the heavy side, he was not fat, but more massy and square. He kept his hair short and his beard trimmed to his jawline. He had angry-looking, suspicious eyes and a scowling mouth. Maegar was a born warrior who rose to become one of the youngest knights of his time. He was a hard and brutal man. As a youth, he already showed cruel tendencies and had no true friends, but mostly keeping to himself. Continuing on, let's see. According to history, Maegar enjoyed war and battle, but most craved violence, death, an absolute mastery over all he deemed his. Maegar wore his father's steel and ruby crown. His armor, however, was more elaborate than Aegon's. Instead of a shirt of scale, Maegar wore a breastplate covered by a surcoat that displays the Targaryen three-headed dragon, red on black. In the history of his youth, in 11 AC, Queen Rheana Targaryen announced that she was pregnant with a son. Excuse me. Being a historian, it's hard to get all this out. That son, Maegar, was born the next year on Dragonstone. As a babe, he was a big and healthy child, twice as big as his half-brother Aenys had been. Maegar and Aenys were not close as children. Maegar was raised by his mother on Dragonstone, and in time became known as the Prince on Dragonstone. He received his first sword at the age of 3 and butchered a cat with it. His cruelty showed again when he finished off a horse which had kicked him. Maegar was a born warrior who was trained at arms by the Sir Gallen Corbray, the master-at-arms of Dragonstone. His mother, Rheana, gave him her Valyrian steel sword, Dark Sister, as a name day present when Maegar turned 13. That same year, Maegar defeated hardened knights in a melee. Maegar's brother Aenys had married Lady Alyssa Valera in 22 AC, and their daughter, Rheana, was born the next year. After Rheana's birth, people suggested that Maegar would fall behind her in the line of succession. Within a year of her birth, Queen Rheana suggested a betrothal between Rheana and Maegar to settle the succession issue. The High Septon protested instead. Maegar was betrothed to the High Septon's niece, Lady Cersei Hightower, whom he married in 25 BC at the Starry Sept in Old Town. Though Maegar boasted that he had conceived a child on his wedding night, the marriage remained barren. Maegar had more success in his military accomplishments. In 28 AC, he won renown a tourney by defeating 3 knights of the King's Guard in the joust and next winning the melee. He was knighted by his father, King Aegon I, at the age of 16, making his the youngest knight in the realm at the time. According to a semi-canon source, Maegar shortly thereafter assisted the Master of Ships, Lord Aethan Valerian, and the Hand of the King, Sir Osmond Strong, in 2 campaigns against the pirate Sargasso San in the Stepstones in 29 AC and 30 AC, and defeated the Giant of the Trident in 31 AC. Hand in exile. In 37 AC, Maegar's father, King Aegon I, died, and his half-brother Aenys ascended the throne as King Aenys I Targaryen. Admitting to all assembled at Aegon I's funeral pyre that he was not nearly the warrior his half-brother was, Aenys presented Maegar with Aegon's Valyrian steel blade, Blackfire, proclaiming they would rule together. Despite the fact that there were several dragon hatchlings on Dragonstone, Maegar had not yet claimed a dragon of his own, claiming that none were worthy. After Aegon I's death, Maegar claimed his father's mount, Black Valerian, for his own. During the first year of Aenys' reign, several rebellions broke out. In the Vale of Arryn, Jonas Arryn rose against his brother, Lord Ronald, imprisoning him and his family. Maegar personally crushed the rebellion, flying on Balerion to the Eyrie and hanging Jonas and his followers. As his previous hand, Lord Alan Stokeworth had died. Aenys named Maegar, his nephew, hand of the king as a reward. Although Maegar had gotten married to Cersei Hightower in 25 AC, Maegar still had no children in 39 AC. Meanwhile, the marriage of Aenys and Alyssa had resulted in 5 more children. First, 3 sons, Aegon, Viserys, and Jaehaerys, followed by 2 daughters, Elisam and Jaela. Aenys and Maegar had been close until Jaela's birth in 39 AC, although Jaela died shortly after her death. Maegar decides that his wife must be barren following Alyssa's newest demonstration of her fertility. Maegar secretly married Lady Alyssa Harroway, the daughter of Lucas Harroway, the new Lord of Harrenhal that year. Dowager Queen Visenya Targaryen led the Valyrian ceremony after Maegar could not find a septon to perform the marriage. The marriage angered the faith of the Seven, and Aenys felt forced to exile his brother. Maegar refused to set Aulus aside. As such, Maegar was sent to Pentos, where he was to stay for 5 years. Septon Myrmidon replaced Maegar as hand, while Aenys' eldest son, Prince Aegon, was named Prince of Dragonstone, claiming the throne. The Faith rose in rebellion against King Aenys I in 41 AC, and when Aenys fell in the following year, Queen Visenya took over his care. Aenys' health improved for a time, but when the king learned that his eldest daughter and son, Rheana and Aegon, were besieged at Craighall, he collapsed and died 3 days later. After Aenys was burned and buried, Visenya flew to Pentos on the back of her dragon Vhagar to bring Maegar back to Westeros. Although Aenys' eldest son, Aegon, was the heir to the Iron Throne, Maegar claimed the throne upon his return. He was crowned at Dragonstone with the Valyrian steel crown of his father, King Aegon I, instead of Aenys' ornate one. Grand Maester Gawain protested Maegar's coronation, stating that by all the laws of inheritance, the crown should pass to Aenys' son, Aegon. Maegar beheaded Gawain with Blackfire, making Gawain the first of 3 Grand Maesters who would be executed during Maegar's reign, ending protest against Maegar's ascension. Maegar took Aenys' widow, Alyssa Valerian, as a hostage, as she had been residing in Dragonstone. Alyssa's younger children, Jaehaerys and Elisam, were kept on the island of Dragonstone with Alyssa, while her son, Prince Viserys, was made Maegar's squire so he could be kept close as a hostage to ensure Alyssa's good behavior. Claiming the throne. Part 2. The Faith rose in rebellion against King Aenys in 41 AC, and we have already covered this. So as you can see, even in history, things end up being repeated and not completely kept up in the right manner. Here we go. The Faith had seized the set of remembrance on Rainey's Hill in King's Landing, so Maegar flew to the city and planted his banner on Visenya's hill to rally men. Visenya challenged those who questioned her son's right to rule to prove themselves. Sir Damon Morgan, the captain of the warriors' sons, challenged Maegar to a trial of 7. Though Maegar was the only survivor of 14, he took a blow to the head and collapsed just as the last warrior's son died. On the 28th day of Maegan's coma, Queen Aenys Targaryen returned from Pentos, bringing with her Rheana of the Tower, a courtesan who had become Maegan's lover during his exile. Rheana took over his care, and Maegar woke from his coma on the 13th day. Maegar mounted Balerion and burned the Sept of Remembrance, while archers killed all those who attempted to flee. Although the Faith would remain Maegar's chief enemy for the duration of his reign, he faced further oppression from Aenys' heir Aegon. That rebellion came to an end in 43 AC when Maegar slew Aegon and his dragon, Quicksilver, in the battle beneath the God's Eye. Further marriages and tyranny. Maegar's forces achieved a bloody victory over the Faith militant in the Battle of Stonebridge, and later at the Great Ford of the Blackwater, where thousands of poor fellows, knights of the warriors' sons, and rebel lords of the Riverlands and Westerlands, opposed Maegar's army. Maegar personally fought in the latter battle, burning men on Balerin's back. Maegar raised a set of laws which forbade holy men from carrying arms, and offered bounties of gold dragons for the scalp of warriors' sons and silver stags for the scalp of poor fellows. He also punished lords who spoke out against the suppression of the faith. In 44 AC, Maegar threatened to incinerate the Starry Sept at Old Town in response to the High Septon condemnation of his polygamous marriages. Shortly after, the High Septon died suddenly, allowing Lord Martin Hightower to open his gates before Balerion and Vhagar could burn the city. The new High Septon was a more passive man, but proved it was unable to halt the rebellion. In 46 AC, Maegar brought 2,000 skulls from his campaign against the Faith to King's Landing, claiming they were the heads of warriors' sons and poor fellows. Many suspected that they were the skulls of innocent small folk, however. Construction of the Red Keep, which had begun in 35 AC, continued under Maegar's reign, leaving the administration of the kingdom to Lord Lucas Haraway, his hand of the king, and father-in-law. Maegar focused on the construction and ordered a host of hidden tunnels and secret passageways built within the castle. He also ordered 4 levels of dungeons constructed and had the 4th level built specifically for torment. In 45 AC, Maegar saw the Red Keep completed, and Maegar's held fast was subsequently named after him. Maegar threw a feast for those who had taken part in the construction, but after 3 days of revelry, he had them all put to the sword to protect the secrets of the hidden passages. In place of the ruined Sept of Remembrance on Rheana's Hill, Maegar began construction of the Dragon Pit for the Targaryen dragons, but as many builders and masons had fled King's Landing after the Red Keep massacre. Maegar had to use prisoners from the city's dungeons for the construction, supervised by builders from Mir and Tyrosh. Maegar's marriage to Aenys Haraway had remained as childless as his marriage to Cersei Hightower had been. Maegar took his lover, Rheana, to wife in 42 AC, naming her to his small council as his Mistress of Whispers. In 44 AC, Aenys gave birth to Maegar's first child. However, the child was a monstrosity, eyeless and twisted. In his fury, Maegar had the midwives, Septas, and Grand Maester Desmond executed. Rheana, however, convinced Maegar that the child had come forth from a secret affair of Aenys. Maegar ordered the execution of Lys, her father Lucas, and every other Haraway he could find. With House Haraway extinct, Maegar held a melee in Lord Haraway's town with Harrenhal the prize. Though gravely wounded, Sir Walton Towers was the victor, and House Towers was granted the ruined castle. The death of Maegar's mother, Dowager Queen Visenya, in 44 AC devastated Maegar, as she had been his strongest supporter. Aenys I Targaryen's wife, Dowager Queen Alyssa Velaryon, escaped during the resulting chaos from Dragonstone with her two youngest children, Jaehaerys and Alysanne, and the Valyrian sword Dark Sister. In response, Maegar had her eldest surviving son, Prince Viserys, tortured to death by Queen Tiana after 9 days of questioning. His mutilated body was left in the courtyard for a fortnight in an unsuccessful attempt to force Alyssa to return. Maegar's first wife, Queen Cersei Hightower, suddenly fell ill in 45 AC and died. Rumor held that she had been killed at Maegar's command. In 47 AC, Maegar wed his three Black Brides, three women of proven fertility who had been widowed through Maegar's actions or wars. The youngest lady, Eleanor Castaigne, birthed an eyeless child with small wings. Lady Jane Westerling lost two children, and she died soon after the second. The last was the eldest daughter of King Aenys I Targaryen, Princess Rheana Targaryen. Maegar named Arya, one of Rhaenys two daughters, by her deceased brother, Aegon, as his heir, disinheriting her brother, Prince Jaehaerys. 48 AC, Queen Tiana claimed to have poisoned Maegar's other wives, causing the abominations. Maegar cut out her heart with blackfire and fed it to his dogs. Downfall. Day by day, the Seven Kingdoms turned against its king, and by 48 AC, Maegar's tyranny could no longer be borne by the realm. In the Riverlands, House Tully of River Run supported Septon Moon and Sir Joffrey Doggett, the leaders of the Poor Fellows. Maegar also found himself opposed by Lord Daemon Valerian, the admiral of the royal fleet, and many great houses followed Valerian's example. A new claim for the Iron Throne was put forth by Aenys I's last surviving son, Prince Jaehaerys. The prince was supported by Lord Robar Baratheon of Storm's End, whom Jaehaerys named Protector of the Realm and Hand of the King. Learning of her brother's claim, Queen Rheana Targaryen fled from Maegar in the night, escaping on her dragon, Dreamfire, with the Valyrian blade, Blackfire. Two of Maegar's King's Guard also abandoned him. These series of betrayals and the loss of Visenya's guidance left Maegar to a broken man. He called his banners, but few answered, and those who did were not enough to defeat his many foes. During the Hour of the Wolf, those few who remained left the throne room, leaving Maegar alone to brood. He was found dead, seated on the Iron Throne, the next morning, his robes covered in blood, his wrists slashed. Some say he had been killed by a knight of his own King's Guard, who could no longer abide by his tyranny. Some say he had been killed by a builder that escaped the Red Keep, slaughter, and desired revenge. And some whispered that Maegar had been killed by the throne itself. Perhaps the most likely explanation is that Maegar killed himself by opening his wrists on the blades of the Iron Throne. Legacy. Maegar died without issue, and was succeeded by his nephew, King Jaehaerys I Targaryen, the youngest son of the late King Aenys I. The Faith Militant Uprising only ended during Jaehaerys' reign. Jaehaerys agreed to pardon all those of the faith who would set their swords aside. though he also deprived the faith of the right to hold up trials. Decades later, Silver Daenerys claimed to be a bastard son of Maegar, but was mutilated by the dragon Sheep Stealer and slain with his sons by the cannibal when trying to claim a dragon. Sir Otto Hightower believed that Prince Daemon Targaryen would be a second Maegar the Cruel if he would ever ascend to the throne, and at the start of the Civil War, his daughter Alicent claimed that Daemon would be as cruel and unforgiving as Maegar ever was as king consort. Daemon's wife, Queen Rhaena Targaryen, came to be considered a grasping, cruel, vindictive woman, and was dubbed King Maegar with Teats, a curse that would become a common curse among Kingslanders for 100 years thereafter. The small council amounted to Hand of the King, Grand Maester, Admiral of the King's Fleet, Mistress of Whispers. So that was during the reign of King Maegar, his small council, of which the following has now been named. So that concludes the entire history of the devious and yet very vindictive Targaryen ruler for his time. Cerys Hightower. Lady Cerys Hightower was a member of House Hightower and was the daughter of Lord Martin Hightower of Oldtown. Her uncle was one of the High Septons during the reign of King Aegon I Targaryen. She eventually married Prince Maegar Targaryen, becoming his first of many wives. In history, Cerys' uncle, the High Septon, protested strongly when Queen Visenya Targaryen suggested that her son Maegar should be wed to Princess Rheana Targaryen, and suggested his own niece. Cerys and Maegar were wed in 25 BC. The ceremony was held at the Starry Sept of Oldtown, with Cerys' uncle, the High Septon, performing the rites. Cerys was 23, whereas Maegar was 13 years old. Maegar boasted to having consummated the marriage several times the day after the wedding, and those who had seen the wedding agreed that Maegar was a lusty husband. However, their marriage remained childless, while Maegar's half-brother, Aenys, had 5 healthy children. After the birth of Aenys' 6th child, Vela, in 39 AC, Maegar decided that Cerys was barren and took Elise, a Haraway, to wife, entering a polygamous marriage. The High Septon demanded that Maegar should leave the whore of Haraway, quote unquote, and return to Cerys. When Maegar was presented with choosing between setting Elise aside or being exiled for 5 years, he chose exile and left for Pentos, leaving Cerys behind in Westeros. Septon Myrmidon was tasked with making Cerys fertile, but failed. Cerys eventually returned to her father in Oldtown. Maegar returned to Westeros in 42 AC and claimed the Iron Throne. Cerise died in 45 AC of a sudden illness, though it was rumored she was killed at King Maegar I Targaryen's command. Aenys Targaryen. Aenys Targaryen of the House Targaryen was a lady of House Targaryen and was one of the many wives of King Maegar I, the only child of King Aegon I Targaryen and Queen Rheana Targaryen. In history, Aenys secretly married Maegar in 39 AC in a ceremony officiated by Dowager Queen Rheana. Her father, Lord Lucas Targaryen, served as Maegar's hand of the king. After having given birth to a deformed baby in 44 AC, Maegar had Aenys, her father, her bedmaids, Grain Master Desmond, who assisted with the birth, and every member of House Targaryen executed. Rheana of the Tower. Rheana of the Tower was a Pentoshi woman who became a queen of King Maegar I Targaryen. Now, for better understanding, Pentos is a free city. It's located in Essos. The government consists of a prince and council of magisters. Unfortunately, the religions are a bit mixed. Pentos is one of the free cities of western Essos. It is a port located on the eastern coast of the Bay of Pentos. History shows that the background of Rheana was rumored to be the natural daughter of a Pentoshi magister who began as a tavern dancer and rose to become a courtesan. She was also said to dabble in sorcery and alchemy. Her relationship with Maegar the Cruel, the beautiful Rheana, became Maegar's lover during his exile in Pentos. She was rumored to be Queen Aenys Targaryen's paramour as well. After Maegar was crowned king in 42 AC, his rule was challenged by the Faith of the Seven, for the Trial of Seven. Maegar won, but was grievously wounded 28 days later Aenys arrived from Pentos with Rheana. The Dowager Queen Rheana Targaryen, after meeting with Rheana, gave the king over to her care alone, which troubled Maegar's supporters. Rheana married Maegar in the same year. The Dowager Queen died in 44 AC. In the confusion after her death, Aenys I Targaryen's widow, Queen Alyssa Valerian, slipped away from Dragonstone with her children, as well as with the sword Dark Sister. Alyssa and Aenys' second son, Prince Viserys, had been kept at the Red Keep as the king's squire. However, and he suffered for her flight. He died after 9 days of questioning at the hands of Rheana of the Tower. Rheana served as Mistress of Whispers on her husband's small council and was dubbed the King's Raven. When Queen Alyssa gave birth to a monstrosity in 44 AC, Queen Tiana convinced Maegar that it was due to Alyssa having secret affairs. This led to the extinction of House Harrowing. Tiana eventually confessed her responsibility for the abominations that were born of Maegar's seed, claiming she had poisoned his other brides. She was killed by Maegar's own hand in 48 AC, her heart cut out with the sword, Blackfire, and thrown to his dogs. Master of Whisperers. The Master of Whisperers, or Mistress of Whisperers, is the king's spy master and is a member of a small council. He or she is charged with gathering intelligence from the Red Keep, King's Landing, around the Seven Kingdoms, across the Narrow Sea, and other places.
Why should I have to sit for 4 fucking hours just to get a bill? Okay, next thing, she did film. I said, well, let's get one.
Eleanor Costain. Lady Eleanor Costain was a member of House Costain and one of the many brides of King Maegar I Targaryen. Along with Lady Jane Westerling and Princess Rheana Targaryen, she was one of the so-called Black Brides. In history, Eleanor was married to Sir Theo Bolling and had already given her husband 3 children. Theo was arrested by knights of the King's Guard, accused of conspiring with Queen Alyssa Valerian to place her son, Prince Jaehaerys, on the throne, and was executed. After 7 days of mourning, Eleanor was summoned to wed Maegar. She became pregnant and gave birth to a stillborn abomination said to have been born eyeless and with small wings. She was one of the 2 wives who survived the king. Theo Bolling. Sir Theo Bolling was a knight of House Bolling during the reign of Maegar I Targaryen. In history, Sir Theo was married to Eleanor Costain, and they had 3 children. Sir Theo was arrested by knights of the King's Guard, accused of conspiring with Queen Alyssa Valerian to place her son, Prince Jaehaerys, on the throne, and was then executed, all on the same day. Alyssa Valerian. Alyssa Valerian was a member of House Valerian, who became the queen of King Aenys I Targaryen. She served as queen regent to her son, King Jaehaerys I Targaryen. Later, she married Lord Robar Baratheon and became Lady of Storm's End. Jaehaerys I Targaryen. King Jaehaerys I Targaryen, also known as the Conciliator, the Wise, or the Old King, was the 4th Targaryen king to sit the Iron Throne. He ascended the throne in 48 AC, following the death of his uncle, King Maegar I Targaryen. Jaehaerys was the longest reigning Targaryen monarch, sitting on the throne for 55 years. He was a dragon rider, riding Vermithor, the largest dragon, after Baeliron and Vhagar. Jane Westerling, wife of Maegar I. Queen Jane Westerling was a member of House Westerling. She was one of the many wives of King Maegar I Targaryen. In history, She is tall and willowy. Lady Jane was a renowned beauty. She had been wed to Lord Alan Tarbeck, who died with the rebels at the Battle Beneath the God's Eye. Jane gave him a posthumous son. Jane was being courted by the son of the Lord of Casterly Rock when King Maegar I sent for her to be wed to him along with Lady Eleanor Castaigne and Princess Rheana Targaryen in a single ceremony. The three became known as the Black Brides, as they were widows. In 47 AC, she was with child, but 3 moons before the child was due, her labor began, and from her womb came a stillborn monster. She did not survive the child for long. References to one known as Jane Westerling from A Storm of Swords. King Robb Stark marries a Jane Westerling, although he had sworn to wed a daughter of Lord Walder Frey. When his mother, Catelyn Stark, tells him that he has broken his oath and slighted the honor of House Frey, Robb bristles and tells her that the Westerlings have better blood than the Freys. They are an ancient line, and there was another Jane Westerling who was King Maegar I's queen 300 years ago. Alan Tarbeck. Though not much is known about him, Alan Tarbeck was Lord of Tarbeck Hall and head of House Tarbeck during the reign of Maegar I Targaryen. He was married to Lady Jane Westerling. In history, Alan died with the rebels at the Battle Beneath the God's Eye.
Even when I was going to the dump, and they were going to set up the phone. Not that I needed one, but they can't. Never happened. No, when she was looking at it, I thought it was over by
Rheana Targaryen, daughter of Aenys I. Princess Rheana Targaryen, one of the Black Brides of King Maegar I Targaryen, was the eldest of the 6 children of King Aenys I Targaryen and Queen Alyssa Velaryon. She was a dragon rider and rode the dragon Dreamfire. In the history of her early life, Rheana was born in 23 AC to Prince Aenys Targaryen and Lady Alyssa Velaryon. Following Rhaenys' birth, people suggested that her uncle Maegar would fall behind her in the line of succession, as she was the eldest and, at the time, only child of Aenys, the heir to the throne. Within a year of her birth, Queen Visenya suggested a betrothal between Maegar, her son, and Rheana in order to settle the succession issue. However, the High Septon protested and suggested his own niece as a bride for Maegar instead. Rheana's father inherited the Iron Throne in 37 AC. In 41 AC, King Aenys I arranged the marriage of Rheana to her eldest brother, Prince Aegon. The Faithful Seven did not accept this incestuous match and began an uprising against the throne. The marriage of Rheana and her brother would last only a few years, during which time she gave birth to twin daughters, Princess Arya and Princess Rala. During the reign of Maegar I, in 42 AC, Rheana and Aegon found themselves besieged at Craighall by members of the faith. Upon learning of this news, Rhaena's father, King Aenys I, collapsed and died soon after on Dragonstone. Dowager Queen Visenya brought Prince Maegar back from his exile in Essos. With Aegon and Rhaena away from Dragonstone, Maegar seized the crown. Prince Aegon and Princess Rhaena sought refuge from their uncle. At one point, Lord Lyman Lannister protected them by extending guest right and refusing all the king's demands to turn them over. However, Lord Lyman refused to pledge his swords to Aegon and Rhaena. Aegon fought Maegar for the throne, but died in battle against Maegar during the Battle Beneath the God's Eye in 43 AC. Rhaena and her daughter took refuge on Fair Isle, where they were under the protection of Lord Faramond. Tiana, one of Maegar's 3 queens, eventually found them. As Rhaena had proven to be fertile by giving birth, she was forced to wed Maegar in 47 AC in the king's attempt to father an heir. In the same ceremony, Maegar married Jane Westerling and Eleanor Costain, women who had given birth earlier as well. Together they became known as Maegar's Black Brides. When Rhaena learned that her youngest brother, Prince Jaehaerys, had announced his claim to the Iron Throne, she fled King's Landing on her dragon Dreamfire to join Jaehaerys' cause. During her flight, Rhaena stole the Valyrian steel sword Blackfire away from Maegar while he slept. Daenerys then, looking down, walking slowly. So, what do you think of my history so far, William? Well, I liked how it started. Sorry about the Valyrian Doom. Yes, it was quite the sad moment, I would imagine, although I wasn't born then. Well, I know where you get your strength from. You get it from Visna. Not that you would deal in poisons or anything like that. She kind of has an odd smile at this. I never thought I would consider it that way, but please continue. Well, and being a beautiful queen, I know where you get your curiosities from. She kind of looks at William, curious what he's about to say. You were curious about how I kiss, how I, not to get personal, but how I meet with a human female, and that although was embarrassing. And yes, you did turn 3 shades of red. Well, as much as she was curious, although it was sad how she disappeared when her dragon was killed and she was riding him, I know where you get your curiosities. You've inherited this through your genealogy, and I do find it delightful. She kind of looks down at you with a smile now. And I don't think I would have liked to met Maegar the First, because I think he probably would have been a scary person to me. She continues walking a little bit further again, looking up. You probably would have not survived him, William, had you came at about his time. They would have had it hard to believe that you had come from another world, this was long, long ago. And I would have never got to meet you either. Well, I'm glad I came at the time I did, I guess, though it was not my choosing. But you and the first, that is the second wife, the sister, to Aegon the First, seem to have a lot of similarities. Your curiosities, the fact you like the fact that I sang, of course I also danced for you, and well, you are quite the lady to like to be dominating and hold me down. She kind of looks at him again. I think we need to take a break, William. Yes, I know. I guess I said too much. She looks down with a smile again as they head out from the genealogical library where also palace records are kept to take a break.